Last spring, I pulled a struggling fig out of its pot, and the root ball came out in one solid woven brick. No loose soil, no room to grow, just roots strangling roots. That tree had been dying for a year and I never saw it from the outside. Here's the thing. This is the single most common container mistake people make with potted fruit trees, and the fix takes about 5 minutes. I'm going to walk you through exactly how to check for it, how to correct it without shocking the tree, and how to keep it from coming back. Stick around to the end, because I'll share the one thing Gloria taught me to do every fall that keeps a potted tree productive for years instead of months. Here's the thing about that fig. It had been quietly dying for a full year, and the whole time it looked perfectly fine from the outside. Green leaves, decent shape, nothing that screamed trouble. The damage was happening below the soil line where I couldn't see it, and that's exactly why most people miss it. A fruit tree will mask a root problem for a long time, pushing along on what little it has, right up until it suddenly stalls out, and you can't figure out why. By then you've lost most of a growing season. And the frustrating part is that the actual hands-on fix takes about 5 minutes once you know what you're doing. I'm going to walk you through this in 4 steps. First, how to check so you can read the root ball and know exactly what you're dealing with. Second, how to correct it without shocking the tree into months of recovery. Third, how to repot it the right way so it has room to grow without drowning. And fourth, how to stop the whole thing from coming back. Then, at the end, I'll share the one thing Gloria taught me to do every fall that keeps a potted tree productive for years instead of months. Let's get into it. Step 1. Check the root ball. About an hour before you start, water the pot until it runs out the bottom. A damp root ball slides out clean and holds together. A dry one crumbles and tears, and you'll lose feeder roots you wanted to keep. So, water first, then go make a cup of coffee and let it soak in. When you come back, tip the whole pot over on its side. Don't stand the tree up and try to haul it out from the top. I see people grab the trunk and pull like they're starting a lawnmower, and they tear half the fine roots right off the base. Lay it down, put one hand flat against the surface of the soil with the trunk between your fingers, and with the other hand, gently work the pot off. Slide, don't pull. If it's really stuck, run a clean knife around the inside edge first to break the seal. The tree should ease out into your hand in one piece. Now, read what you're holding. A healthy root ball has loose soil you can see, with white roots running through it and a little bit of give when you press it. A root-bound one tells on itself immediately. The outside is a tight woven mat of roots circling around and around, following the shape of the pot. In bad cases, there's almost no soil left at all, just a solid brick of roots strangling roots. That's exactly what came out of my fig last spring, one solid woven block, hard as a coconut, with the roots spiraling around the outside like somebody had wound them on a spool. Once you've seen one, you never mistake it again, and that's the whole win of this step. You're no longer guessing. You pulled the tree, you read the roots, and now you know exactly what you're dealing with instead of staring at sad leaves and hoping. Most people never look. They treat the soil line like a curtain they're not allowed to pull back. Pull it back. Step 2. Correct it without shocking the tree. This is the part that scares people, and it's also the part that takes about 5 minutes once your hands know the moves. Here's the thing. The roots are wound into a circle, and a circle never breaks itself. Left alone, those roots keep spiraling tighter even after you give them fresh soil, because that's the only direction they know. Your job is to interrupt the circle so the roots start growing outward again. Grab a clean, serrated knife. An old bread knife works perfectly, and that's honestly what I keep on the potting bench for this. Hold the root ball on its side and make 3 or 4 straight vertical cuts down the outside, evenly spaced around it, like you're scoring the sides of a loaf. Go about 1/4 inch deep. Not deep enough to gut the thing, just deep enough to sever those circling roots on the surface and wake up the ones underneath. You'll hear a faint, tearing crackle as the knife goes through the mat. That's the sound of the circle breaking. Then lay the root ball flat and shave the bottom ½ inch clean off, flat across, like trimming the heel off a loaf of bread. The bottom is usually the worst tangle, where roots hit the floor of the pot and turn sideways into a pancake. Take that pancake off. After that, set the knife down and use your fingers. Gently tease the outer roots loose so they hang free and splay outward instead of hugging the ball. Work slowly. Some will come away, and that's fine. Now, here's where most people mess up, and it goes one of two ways. Either they lose their nerve and barely scratch the surface, which does nothing, or they panic in the other direction and hack the thing down to a bare nub, washing all the soil off and cutting away half the roots. Both are mistakes, but the second one is the killer. Strip a tree bare, and you'll shock it into months of recovery if it recovers at all. The rule I follow is simple. Never remove more than about 1/3 of the root mass in one go. A few vertical cuts, the bottom ½ inch, and a little finger work is plenty. Restraint is the whole game here. You're not rebuilding the tree, you're just giving it permission to grow outward. That third number matters because a tree carries its roots and its branches in rough balance. Take 1/3 of the roots, and the tree can still feed the canopy it has while it pushes new roots into the fresh soil. Take half, and suddenly the leaves are asking for water the roots can't deliver, and that's when you get scorch and die back. So go light. If you're standing there wondering whether you've done enough, you've probably done enough. I timed this whole job for late winter, before bud break, which here in Sacramento, Zone 9B, lands in late February. The tree is still mostly asleep, the sap hasn't really started moving, and it can heal those cuts and settle into new soil before it has to spend energy on leaves and fruit. Do this kind of root work in the middle of summer, with the tree in full leaf and fruit setting, and you're fighting the tree's own calendar. Late winter, the tree barely notices. When you're done, set the root ball down and look at it. Where you had a tight, smooth, strangled brick, you now have a slightly rough, opened-up ball with loose roots fanning out at the edges and the bottom. That's the small win. Those roots can finally reach into new ground instead of choking each other in a circle. The hard part is over, and it took about as long as it takes to slice a loaf of bread. Step 3. Repot the tree correctly. This is where a lot of folks undo all the good work they just did, and they do it for a reason that feels smart. They think, if I'm going through all this trouble, I'll move the tree into a much bigger pot so I never have to do it again. I want to be honest with you, I did exactly that the first time, and it backfired. Here's the thing. A fruit tree only wants to go up about one pot size at a time, roughly 2 inches larger in diameter, not a giant leap. If your tree was in a 12-inch pot, you move it to a 14. That's it. Gloria taught me a trick that surprised me at first. Half the time, she puts the tree right back into the same pot it came out of, scrubbed clean, because once you've shaved the root ball down, you've made room without needing more container at all. The pot you already own is usually the right pot. The reason the small jump matters is drainage. When you drop a freshly pruned root ball into a huge volume of soil, the roots can't reach most of it. That outer ring of soil just sits there, soaked, with no roots drinking it up, and it stays wet for days. Wet, dead soil is exactly how you rot a healthy root system. So you keep it tight. For the mix, I use roughly 2 parts good potting soil, 1 part finished compost, and 1 part perlite or fine bark for drainage. That last part is the piece beginners skip, and it's the difference between soil that breathes and soil that turns to mud. Set the tree in so the graft union, that swollen knuckle low on the trunk where the variety was joined to the rootstock, sits above the new soil line, right where it was before. Bury that union, and you invite rot at the worst possible spot. Firm the mix gently with your fingers, don't stomp it, and water it in slowly until it runs clear out the drainage holes. The small win here is room to grow without drowning. The tree has fresh food, open soil, and a graft sitting high and dry. Step 4. Keep it from coming back. A root-bound brick isn't a one-time accident. It's what every potted tree does if you leave it alone long enough. So for an established tree that's already as big as you want it in the pot, set yourself a 2 to 3 year root prune and refresh cycle. Every couple of years, you slide it out, score and shave the roots the same way, and put it back in fresh mix. And once a year in between, run a clean knife straight down around the inside edge of the pot, about an inch deep all the way around. That single pass cuts the young circling roots before they ever weave themselves into a brick. It takes 30 seconds. Leave a tree untouched for 4 or 5 years, and I promise you the brick comes back every time. The reward for staying on top of it shows up later. The fall after I fixed that fig, I put the harvest on my kitchen scale just to see, and it weighed nearly double what it had the year before. Same tree, same pot footprint, just roots that could finally do their job. Now, if what I'm showing you today is making sense, and you're starting to realize that good container growing comes down to soil, drainage, and the right size pot, I want to point you to something. I wrote all of this down in my book, The 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol. It's $17 over at backyardbuddybooks.com. Chapter 4 is all about container gardening on a zero budget, and it's got the cross-section diagrams showing exactly how to layer your soil and set up drainage so roots never sit in water. You don't need a big yard or expensive gear for any of this. If you're watching on your TV right now, go ahead and grab your phone and point it at the QR code on screen. No rush, I'll wait right here while you find it. And if you're on your phone or laptop already, the link's right down in the description. All right, let's keep going. Let me walk you through where this goes wrong, because these are the ones that got me. The first mistake is waiting until the tree looks sick above ground before you ever check the roots. By the time the leaves yellow or the tree drops its fruit, you've already lost most of a growing season underground. The fix is simple. Pull and check every potted tree once a year on a schedule, not when it looks bad. The damage is invisible until it isn't, so don't wait for the symptom. The second mistake is the one I just warned you about, and I'll say it again because it's that common. Potting up into a much bigger container to avoid doing the job again. All that extra wet soil the roots can't reach stays soggy and rots them from the outside in. Go up only one size, about 2 inches. Restraint is the whole game here. The third one caught me by surprise. After you score the roots, the tree is stressed and its root system can't pull water the way it normally does. If you set it straight out in full afternoon sun, or you hit it with fertilizer to help it along, the leaves scorch and the tree stalls. Give it about a week in bright shade with nothing but plain water before you feed it anything. Let the roots catch up first. Feeding a stressed tree is like handing a big meal to someone who can't sit up yet. Now, I told you at the start, I'd share the one thing Gloria taught me to do every fall, the thing that keeps a potted tree productive for years instead of fading after a season or two. Here it is. Every fall, before the first frost, which out here in Sacramento lands somewhere around the 10th of December, Gloria does an annual top dress. She scrapes off just the top 2 inches of tired, collapsed potting soil from around the trunk. That top layer is always the most spent, the most settled. Then she replaces it with a 50-50 mix of fresh, finished compost and worm castings, and she waters the whole thing in with a half-strength seaweed solution. That's it. Takes about 5 minutes a pot. Here's why it works. Over a single growing season, container soil settles and loses its open structure. It collapses on itself, and that starves the shallow feeder roots right under the surface, the fine ones that do most of the tree's actual work. Refreshing that top 2 inches feeds those feeder roots at exactly the right moment, right as the tree is setting next year's fruit buds and heading into dormancy. So the tree overwinters strong instead of going to sleep hungry. Gloria's been growing on the same balcony for over 20 years, and her rule is simple. Feed the soil in fall, and the tree feeds you all summer. After 2 decades of figuring this out the hard way, I've never found a better fall habit. Before I let you go, I want to tell you about one more chapter. A potted fruit tree isn't a one-season thing. It's a long game, a tree that can feed you year after year if you treat it right. That's exactly what Chapter 9 of the 30-Day Kitchen Scrap Garden Protocol is about, the long game of perennials and self-sustaining container systems. It's got a diagram of a perennial container arrangement laid out for year-round harvest, and it leans on Gloria's 20-year balcony as proof that you do not need land to grow fruit for years on end. It's the guide I wish I'd had 10 years ago. The whole book is at backyardbuddybooks.com. If you're on the big screen, grab your phone and scan that QR code now. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. And if you're on your phone, the link is right there in the description waiting for you. So that's the whole thing. A 5-minute root check, a clean repot, and a fall refresh, and a potted fruit tree will stay productive for years instead of months. This is what the whole channel is about, growing real food in small spaces with whatever you've already got. If you like this, you'll want to see the one where I turn a $3 bag of grocery store potatoes into more than 100 pounds in grow bags. Pull one potted tree this week, just one, and read its roots. Drop a comment and let me know what you found in there. I read them all. Until next time, keep growing your own food, my friend.